Okay, hoping that we are not stretching your willingness to listen to the far limits, I will just continue. The idea is that in the work package, we are seeding the road ideas and we are planning for the harvest. In other words, we are disseminating and we are preparing the exploitation. The objectives of this work package is that we disseminate the project outcomes to all the major transport sector players in Europe. And the second objective is that we set up a means of internal, external communication and dissemination support through our website, the www.roadideas.eu. We are delivering an innovation project. It has something fairly special. Dissemination of this innovation process as such is maybe one of the most important outcomes. If we are looking at the ROADIDEA project, we should not just look at, for example, what ended up as pilots. But in fact, there were like 100 ideas generated. We only worked out in pilots. Well, we talked about 5 pilots, 3 of them like more practical and 2 more conceptual. But we had 95 other ideas. For various reasons, we didn't go into more detail with those. But yes, this innovation process is important. We should also mention that in an innovation project, it's really important not to look at just commercial exploitation. So the end result doesn't have to be a commercial business model, but it can also be a social, something that is of benefit to the society, and therefore usually then funded from public means. What you also need in an innovation project is a lot of dissemination outputs, especially in the early stages of your project. Because if you don't do that, it will be very difficult to get a good innovation process going. And in contrast to a normal goal-oriented project, I mean, I'm having this product idea and I'm going to develop the product and then I'm going to market the product, and if I sell enough then I earn some money. That's one way of looking at it. Exploitation and dissemination in an innovation project are much more closely interdependent. So why is that? Well, if we look at the target audiences, I don't want to go into all the details here, but just say that we have 3 main groups. Professionals who we want to be aware of the ROADIDEA project, professionals working in the same fields as we are working. How about the people we really want to understand the project? There's a group of people, not the least of those people is our own, let's say, project partners. We need to understand from each other what we are doing. That we want those people to understand the project in more detail, not just being aware that it's happening, but what is really happening. And of course, the third category, which is a very important category, is that if you want to achieve real change, if you want to have something implemented, well, you need some people to help you do that, or to become a stakeholder or be involved in that. Well, these people, of course, you need to target as well. So what's the approach to delivering basically innovation project? And I should say that this is the basically dissemination approach. Well, first of all, we have our project outcomes. And we have a number of dissemination methods. Actually, it's a quite long list of things that we are doing. A very important one is, let's say, our conference presentations. In that sense, we have been, I think, extraordinarily successful in that in ROADIDEA we've produced something like already, I'm not really up to date with the list, but it's around 30 papers that have been published by now. And for example, in the survey conference, there was an entire session with about 8 presentations just on ROADIDEA. So that's, I think, a very good result. If we look at the different categories, these people you want to be aware, well, of course, you have specific dissemination for people you want to be aware. And it's being aware means less detail, of course. More detailed, if you look at, for example, reports, that's when you want people to understand what's going on in our project. And finally, the people that can achieve the real change, say our stakeholders and pilot owners. Well, there you go to a more detailed level eventually, where you have questionnaires and one-to-one meetings on how to continue with the project. So, if we look at the exploitation of the outcomes in an innovation project, well, very important is that we have a lot of experience that we have gained in this project, but how are we going to apply this kind of experience in future projects? In that sense, I'm very happy to hear that in the Wise Safeguard project, for example, people are saying, hey, this is something interesting that's happening. We are going to see what we can use of that. And that's the kind of methods that you have where you can continue applying the experience that you are gaining. Technical experience that you have learned or gained through the project. Well, this is something that you want to apply in the future as well. I already have seen that amongst partners that alliances are being formed for various different projects which don't have to be road projects, for example. So Demis and Forica have found a way to cooperate in a also weather-related project, but it's more about safety for dikes, water level prediction, and that's going to be an international project, for example. We've just proposed for that. These kind of alliances can only form after you have a successful project where partners are really working together. And it's an important outcome, basically, and it's something that we need to exploit as a group. Another thing is that we have these pilots, right? Well, they have gone either almost the whole way that they're near the market, or it's still all conceptual, or even it's just the idea in lying around in one of these famous baskets from Audi. How did you come up with the idea of calling these baskets anyway?
I cannot stand.
I'll talk about it later. Anyway, so I mean, these ideas can still be lying around somewhere, and well, pilots using pilots is a way of accelerating the development of live services, because using the pilots you can actually make an evaluation, and you can ask the people, these are our example. Do you think that you can do something with that? If you describe all this theoretically, and SMS is again a good example that, oh yes, there was somebody who invented SMS and nobody understood what it was, so it took a long time to take off. But now, of course, who is not using SMS? I mean, that's the way it can go. Pilots can really help you, because you can see the live thing running as a service. And that will, in the end, accelerate the deployment of your live service. Very important also is that the whole project has allowed us to clarify and formulate the necessary data infrastructures, and I should say also a technical platform here. And it has helped us in our business model development, although we have noticed that there are some problems with that in terms of, well, finding the right funding for this kind of approach. But anyway, we were able to look at these business models and see what we can do with them. Exploitation by itself, well, it's very much enabled by the high level of dissemination, all these papers that we've put out, and people are aware by now in Canada and in the US, of course, thanks to the ROADIDEA INCO extension. And we were able to assess by demand testing our, let's say, outcomes. That's something you can exploit. We were able to provide a web delivery of some of the, well, we call it demonstrators in a way, but let's say the pilots. And we end with our exploitation with a number of structured actions for each partner that will be part of the exploitation plan. The next step, what I wanted to do, but in view of the time, I don't think I'm going to spend much time on it, because there are very nice things on our website. It's www.roadidea.eu. What you can find there are all the documents, all the presentations that were given today were uploaded there, I think, 10 minutes before we started running. So I'm sure they're the latest versions now. Even the webcast was visible also on the website, because you can just take that URL and use it. We're planning actually also to have the webcast, which is, let's say, of course, a means to reach a much larger audience. And I should mention that apparently there's someone in Australia who was actually interested in this, and he asked, is there a webcast? And this was the start of the whole idea to have the webcast. So if you're there, thank you for that, excellent idea. So the webcast and the result of that, I think we'll put it on YouTube or something. We still have to discuss that, but we should do more with this kind of results. Descriptions of the pilots and actually the real links to the things you can see. For example, I showed this this prediction for Brussels, well, you can get that on the website, and it explains on how you should install some kind of software to do that. The frog pilot, there's a link to the frog pilot on the website, so please go there. I don't have time to show it now. I can do it tomorrow if you want. So, my final slide. It's about, well, what is a normal project if you have a conventional project where you're marketing and developing basically some kind of product. The conventional profile is that you have this development phase more or less, and there's not much external activity going on. Towards the end, of course, you start doing that because you want to sell your product, and dissemination takes off really by the time you are ready to go to the market. And if you combine, let's say, the effort in dissemination and exploitation, you get a profile that looks like this. So you end, by the time you're ready to market the product, you end at a certain level. For an innovation project, it's quite different. This is how you have to start disseminating. It starts at a very high level. And then, of course, the way it works, at least in the ROADIDEA project, and it seems to be normal for innovation projects, is that the exploration level that you reach at the end of the project, or exploitation level, that you reach at the end of the project, is not so high yet. It's something that we have to continue in the rest of this, let's say the project is now finished, but after the project, post-project, we should really continue working on this. And I think a couple of ideas have already been mentioned on how we can do that. So the final thing I would like to say here is that, well, if you have a conventional project, basically what it does, it creates the ability to market the product. But if you look at ROADIDEA, what we have done, what we have reached in our project, is that we have created the ability to assess the user demand, the end user demand. And with that, you can build better products. That's our belief. And these vague things crawling around, that's just a selection of the list of publications that have been made in the course of this project. And with that note, I would like to thank you.
Any final questions to Paul? Petri, please.
This is not too serious because this is the final one, but what is the y-axis scale?
Horizontal axis is time, and the vertical axis is like the effort. So you end, that's why to make this graph understandable, the total effort spent on dissemination and exploitation, at the end, when you have marketed the product, will be similar to make it understandable. And the way the effort is spent in a project like an innovation project means that you start at a much higher level of dissemination. So the y-axis is effort.
Thank you. And now tomorrow we will be back here at 9 o'clock, and remember we will be out of our boxes, like Auli said. We will have a nice day innovating. So please have a good night and a good rest so that you are in a good condition in the morning. And those who have laptops, go to our ROADIDEA.eu website. You can go through what's there and ask